What is up, friends? Thank you for coming to my studio, and thank you for sending me questions. I take them and I deep dive down there and just freeform and use them as a tool to explore ideas. And it's really fun, and I'm really grateful that you come along for the ride. Let's get into some questions. Let's go. Okay, I see where this is going. At Bannock Chef, that's my friend. I hope you're well, man. Is it fair to say that the rules that limit combat sports is the same as having a script? Now, I'm not speaking for my friend Bannock Chef here, but I got a feeling this is kind of aimed at one of the larger talking points that's happening out in the world, and that is, we talked about it before, is Jake Paul fixing fights? We've discussed this before. People hate Jake Paul, and he uses that as a tool to make a lot of money and gain a lot of influence. It's a modern tool. It is being done by a lot of people. People provoke, use your emotion as a tool to get you to follow, like, share, dislike, angry, respond, whatever. If you don't like them, often you have to find ways, and this is happening in politics and news and sports and entertainment and everything. We find ways to make what we believe so, right? So a lot of people are like, I hate Jake Paul. That's okay, he's using that. And then they're like, well, he's fixing fights. And then I will explain, I have explained it before. You cannot fix fights if people are betting on it. Because I'll tell you, MGM Grand is not going to lose money because you created some story in which you won, and then it's just not having. It's called racketeering or fraud. It's called many names, and you go to jail for a long time, and you lose everything you have. So we know Jake Paul is not fixing fights, but now people are like, but he's having bigger gloves, and he's changing the rules and the time limits and the whatever, and that's basically having a script, right? I see where you're going here, my friend. No. Now, do the rules or structures or paradigms or the overall way that we create a fight, does that change the fight? Yeah, right? If you're fighting Mike Tyson, you want him to have bigger gloves, right? You want him to have bigger gloves in hopes that he doesn't knock you out. If he lands a big shot, maybe that'll make the difference. You're not unconscious. He's in his 50s. You can fatigue him later. Is that true? Yes. Is that wrong? No. Unless you hate him. And they're like, God damn it, why? How does he do it? Like, he's changing the rules. It's just really smart. Now, how and why could somebody dictate the rules in something? And there actually is a root thing here. I think there's something we can all learn and use from this. One of the best ways to look at the world and the ways that are most sort of practical for our life is as it is, free of emotion. So if we don't hate Jake Paul for a second, or you don't love him for a second, you just look objectively. You'd be like, for some reason, this guy will find ways to improve his chance of winning and reduce his opponent's chance of winning. If you have no emotion, you look at that and go, that's very smart. That's highly intelligent. Only if you have some emotion or some like or dislike of him does that bother you, or do you love it? You know, when I don't know a lot about football, but I do know that there have been stories of, and I saw something in the Olympics where this happened, where people will spy on the other team or the opponents. Now, if that's your team doing it, you're like, that's just smart. If it's the other team doing it, you're like, lock them up. Ban them, right? Your response to this is based on what you already believe, right? So if you already hate Jake Paul, you look at it and you go, bigger gloves, different rounds, longer this, shorter that, older opponents. That makes me mad. It only makes you mad because you don't like him. If you have no judgment, you don't love him, you don't hate him, you just look at it, objectively speaking, that's very smart. So that's the first thing we take away from it. By not being emotional, we look at that and go, well, how could we do these things in legal ways that are allowed in our lives, in our work, and in our fitness, in our health? Are there ways that we can improve our likelihood of a good outcome? Oh, there are. Okay, well, let's look at that. Let's learn from this, right? So that's one lesson. The second one is, why can he do that? Because there's a real lesson here too. And the answer, There's a book called The 48 Laws of Power written by Robert Greene. You don't have to follow them, and I certainly don't. I don't look at them and go, how am I going to gain power and manipulate people? But I sure want to know how the world works, because when I've worked in different places, Chase and I both worked at a place called Fight Network, and things didn't always make, and that was one of, I've had other jobs, and I still do have other jobs, mostly I'm a freelancer now. And that was my response to working in an environment where like, oh, there is a lot of political things that happen that I don't understand. When I was younger, I would be mad. This doesn't make sense. This should be this way. And that does not help you. In fact, it harms you. So what instead you do is go, how does the world work? Oh, sometimes in my work environment, certain things are not done on merit or on results or whatever. They're done because of favors or friendships or loyalty or different things. Okay, I could be mad about that, and I was when I was younger, but now I'm like, okay, it works that way, so I need to understand that because that's the world you live in. Why am I dancing around this? Well, why can Jake Paul decide how to structure a fight in such a way that it favors him wherever possible? Again, if we don't have any emotional attachment, we see that as an intelligent thing to do, right? Why can he do that? Leverage, right? Or power, as Robert Greene would say. If you are the one, if people want to see you fight, why do they want to see you fight? Some of them hate you. He's leveraging your hatred of him as a tool to be able to rig the deck in his favor. Again, that's really smart, right? If you didn't hate him, and not you, and some of you do not have an emotional, visceral response to Jake Paul or any other person, but some of you do. And if you do, your emotional reaction, I can't believe Mike Tyson is too old. Like this is, but like all of that is giving Jake the leverage because now people want to pay to see him fight. Netflix wants that attention, so they're going to put it on there. It is all of the emotional response that gives him the leverage to be able to shape things in his favor. Again, if you're not mad, that's just smart, and we can learn from that, right? So back to my friend Bannock Chef said, is it fair to say that the rules that limit combat sports is the same as having a script? It is not the same. Not the same at all. And in fact, this has been going on for a long time. You know, Floyd Mayweather fought Canelo at the right time. If he fought him 3 years later, he might not have won. He picked that at that time. He fought people when he chose to. You know, even Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor created the leverage by being super popular and creating the story around it that Floyd Mayweather could go, I will definitely fight that guy. He's really dangerous. He's really big. And he's very different, but I'm pretty sure I can beat him. And that's what he believed. And he did beat him, right? And so these things have happened always. They happen in sport. They happen in entertainment. They happen every day in business. If you can slowly simmer down your emotional response to them, there's a lot to be learned from these things. How do you create leverage to be able to influence things in your favor? This is life. This is life. But it is not the same as having a script. Mike Tyson could still absolutely knock out Jake Paul. He absolutely could. And Jake Paul still got to go in and fight Mike Tyson. Do you want to fight Mike Tyson? I do not want to fight Mike Tyson. I don't care how old he is. I'm not fighting Mike Tyson in a stadium or an arena live in front of the whole world where Mike Tyson can knock me unconscious and I piss my pants and my mom's watching. Like, no. But if I had to fight him, I sure want the leverage to be able to shape the fight in such a way that would minimize the pants pissing. So good on him. Lots to be learned from Jake Paul. Shin or instep, what do you prefer? At Von Whedon. I like this question. Now, what do I prefer for what? You know, for dancing, for whatever. But I do know what he means. He means kicking, right? Do we prefer to kick with the instep or to kick with the shin? The answer to that is all of it, right? All of it. If I'm going to be close enough, safely enough, to be able to kick your thigh or your calf or your arm or some weak part of your body, I'm absolutely going to use the shin. The shin is a baseball bat. The shin is literally the same as hitting someone with a baseball bat. But there will be moments where I cannot get that deep to be able to, you know, look, it's quite simply, from here, I can kick my cup with my foot, but not my shin. So I've got to get much closer to be able to do that. And there's some danger in there. We don't want to always be, you know, I don't want to force a scenario to the weapon. I want to choose the weapon to the scenario, right? So there will be times where I can get the foot on you. The foot on a calf is quite weak. The foot on an elbow is really bad. Foot on a forearm, hit you with the bone of my foot on the muscle of your forearm, or the tricep, or, you know, a high up on, this is a really bad place to get kicked. I don't know if anyone's ever been kicked there. We all know about the liver, but sometimes when it comes up, is there a tear in there? Sometimes when it comes up, it hits up underneath the latissimus dorsi, really bad spot. We'll use the feet for all of that. While we're at it, you know, martial arts, this happens all the time, but when we watch like high-end television fighting, high-end boxing, we watch high-end MMA and UFC, we watch all of these things, we hear the discussion of it. I see people often will see a kid in Bellator or PFL or somewhere else in the world, or kickboxing, and go, this guy needs to fight in the UFC. That isn't always where the smartest or the highest end or the intelligent stuff's done. It's a lot of swanging and banging because you want to make a good living. I talked about Michael Chandler before. I'll put a piece up on my social about Michael Chandler. Chandler's a brilliant martial artist and great athlete. He purposefully made decisions of how to fight, didn't win all his fights as a result, made more money, became more popular, created potentially a Conor McGregor fight, maybe not, we don't know. But all of that was intentional. That wasn't Michael. Michael's best, highest skill, best decision-making fighting happened at certain times in Bellator. It has not happened in the UFC, but he's made the most money because this is prize fighting, right? But when you look at fighting, you know, we know of a hammer fist. This is a variation. If you talk to Wonder Boy's dad, Ray, he talks about the ridge hand. The ridge hand, really underused, but this is a great weapon. This is a really good weapon, right? Everything is a weapon. The forearm is a weapon. The elbow is a weapon. And when it comes to each weapon, how it's used, this slice is different than this slice. You know, kicking with the foot, this part of the foot. I see a lot of people kicking the calf with sort of the interior ridge of the foot. The blade of the foot, a side kick is actually, I'll take my sock off, not that anyone asked to see my foot, but a side kick is actually done like this. Typically the toe comes up and the ridge of the foot, this is the weapon, right? This is when you are like a high-level martial artist. And again, I make the distinction because the highest level of martial artistry isn't always happening where the most famous fights are happening or the most watched fights. Sometimes that is a high level of combat done without the highest level of intelligence for the purpose of making a lot of money. Now, no judgment, man. If you're going to make a living as a fighter, by all means, choose to do that. But high-level martial artistry, and I do see this a lot. We'll go into this on another day, but people are like, Kung Fu doesn't work. Let's see it in the UFC. I mean, there's lots of people doing lots of Chinese martial arts things, and you're going to see a lot more of it because the main thing that works in a fighting scenario is the thing the other person doesn't see a lot of anymore, right? So all these long fist techniques, Tony Ferguson used a lot of long fist and Chinese martial arts stuff. People just didn't talk about it. You know, people just didn't take the time to say it. We have this idea that wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, but it's not like that anymore. Right, but the discussion still is. It's all changed. But shin or instep, what do you prefer? Everything is weaponized. Bruce Lee, you know, talked about how you must use your whole body and attack all of his targets, eyes, balls, whatever. If the fight is real, you must use your entire body. So there are times where we prefer the shin, times we prefer the instep. There are times we like a slashing elbow, and there's times where we like a ridge hand from a distance. You weaponize the whole body for real fighting and true free fighting, martial artistry, not designed to make me money, but to fight the best fighting I can. You use it all. This one just writes itself, but Bink, what martial artist influenced you the most? At Carefree Jabroni. Carefree Jabroni. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee has influenced me the most. Bruce Lee, when I was a kid, if you told me that I would work with Bruce Lee's family and analyze Bruce Lee movements and philosophies and stuff as a partner with the Bruce Lee organization, I would have never believed you. I would have never believed you. It's an incredible thing. There was a time many, many, many years ago where my dream was to commentate the UFC. And now I didn't know what that actually entailed. I was working at a 24-hour fighting channel in Canada, and I just thought, well, it'll be artistic and cool, and I'll sit next to Joe and John Anik, or Goldberg at the time, John Anik. These are all friends of mine. I admire them all. I'd love just hang out with them. We'll talk about fighting all the time. It's not like that. It's a corporation that is highly structured, and weirdos like me do not fit well into highly structured environments, and highly structured environments are not designed for weirdos like me. But over time, your goals change, your understanding of what you want changes. And in fact, now having a partnership with the Bruce Lee family is actually like beyond anything that I would have ever dreamed. This is it'll be the coolest. I shouldn't say that because who knows? Like one of the things I never would have thought is that in my 50s, I would have the best time of my life, that the most exciting, interesting, fulfilling time of my life would be in my 50s. But it's true, it can be. And it can be for you if you're 20 watching this, and 19 or 33. Your life can get way better as you get older, if you're open to it and if you're learning and stuff. But so I don't want to say this will always be the coolest thing I've ever got to do, but it probably is. It's so cool. I get to analyze Bruce Lee's work, and when you do so, you look under the hood of this stuff 50 years later. The genius of it was so unbelievable. So I work with Bruce Lee's family, and I've never told them this, but I actually have Bruce Lee tattooed on my body, and my wall is 3 Bruce Lees. I have Bruce Lee tattooed twice. This one is Crash, and this one is Flo. And my daughter's middle name is Lee. Bowie Lee Black, and I named her that before I started working with Bruce Lee's family and the Bruce Lee Family Company. So they don't know all of that, but they won't find that all that weird because, you know, Shannon, Bruce's daughter, her entire lifetime, people have been showing her tattoos of her dad and talking about how much he meant to her. So this will come as no surprise to anyone there, but it's, yeah. When I was a kid, Bruce Lee was very much my hero. And I've said this many times, when I sung in a rock band, I liked to combine Alice Cooper, coincidentally I'm wearing the shirt, and Bruce Lee, as weird as that is. But very much was sort of my hero and mentor. And even to this day, a lot of the really good, highly structured, successful areas of my life take some amount of Bruce Lee's philosophies, where he even encouraged people not to just listen to him, but to use any mentor or any teacher as a tool, as a stepping stone and a leaping off point to explore other things, and I've very much done that. So Bruce Lee is no longer sort of I listen to everything he says and I structure everything, not at all. But he was like the earliest inspiration to me as a martial artist and a philosopher that has then sent me out. Part of his, you know, what he will share with people is to go out into the world and add to it and learn from it. He died in the 1970s. So, you know, there's 50 years of other people's exploration and ideas and learning and studying and growth and all of that. So that's what I've done. But to this day, yeah, Bruce Lee is... last time we did a YouTube show, I got Chase to show you. I'll get him to drop the same thing. And this is the wall I look at every day. It's 3 paintings of Bruce Lee, each one slightly individual than the other. Each one created specifically by an artist named Stu Dead at Play Dead. And behind me, I also have Muhammad Ali. And then Roots of Fight created this for me, which is Bruce Lee versus Muhammad Ali. Of course, that never actually happened. But Roots of Fight is a clothing company, and they created that for me. So, but yes, Bruce Lee, definitely the biggest inspiration in life. We always end on something positive, and I like this question. Maybe we'll end on it today. At the time of shooting this, I'm getting on a plane to go somewhere soon, and it's a really beautiful part of my life is getting to travel to Asia and Europe and stuff and commentate fights. So we'll wrap it here, but this one at Derek 555, what's your morning routine? And I'll try to just describe my mornings as best I can, but also in a way that maybe we get to leave on our positive vibe, which we like to do. I actually talked about this in the last YouTube video that we did, but a big thing for me lately, and I'm certainly not afraid to talk about it again, and in fact, I would mention this every 3 times or 4 times we sit down. To me, the biggest thing, it will change your life, is don't go to this thing first thing in the morning. I've had some very large improvements in my life over the last few years that are specifically planned. One of them is I turned off all news, right? I turned it off. There is, of course, things we need to know about, but of the 20 active wars in the world, it isn't specifically the one they want to show us scary footage about to make us scary and upset. So I turned off all kind of typical kind of mainstream news, which also led me to turn off fight news. I actually don't know who's fighting Saturday night in wherever anymore. And not because that's a bad thing to know. In fact, it's a great distraction sometimes. But around these things, the world around them is people arguing, no, this guy's going to win. No, this guy's going to win. This guy, can you see what he tweeted about this? A lot of that the things that end up coming out in news, even basketball news or fighting news or news, is mostly conflict. Right? And of course, fighting is conflict, but that's not all it is. So anyways, I changed those. But the biggest one, then the next thing I did over maybe now 2 years ago, is I turned all notifications off on my phone. The improvement in your life, you don't maybe feel it for 30 days, but the improvement is massive, massive. This thing works for you. You do not work for it. It doesn't tell you when to pick it up, when to do, it doesn't. And you can't. You have to turn it off. Even if you believe part of your job is connected to responding quickly, it isn't. It really isn't. The world does. I shouldn't say that. There's somebody who it is, but for most of us, it really isn't. And then now the biggest one is, if I can, I delay as long as possible to getting involved in this thing. When you switch over to email mode or bright thing or text or follow up or like looking at all these things, your brain doesn't get to wake up and start to really connect to the moments. But I talked about this the other week, is instead of having a 6-hour morning to do 6 hours of hard work, I do an hour and a half of walking by the river with my daughter. And then I only have 4 hours left, or 3.5, or whatever it is, and actually do more work, better creativity, higher focus, etc. So my advice to anybody would be, do not go to this first thing in the morning. Have a cold shower, which not everyone likes, but I really like now. I used to hate it. Eat something healthy, lots of water, and then get some kind of nature. For me, I'll write before almost all those things, which is really important if you're a creative person. And even if you're not, it'll get some of those thoughts out. And you wake up and suddenly you're connected to your day. Suddenly you're present, and being present is everything. They're trying to steal your attention. Not they as in some cabal of evil supervillains, but just the culture we're in, the machines, the companies, they need your attention. And if you don't dive into that right away, your day will get better, and then you'll be more present. When you're more present, you'll learn more, and then you'll grow more, and then you'll feel better, and then working out won't be so hard, and everything just gets better. But you might not do it right away, but I'm gonna mention it again in a few weeks or months. Just don't go to it first thing in the morning. Your life will improve. I swear. I am doing every couple of days, I call it daily-ish, but every couple of days I'm writing a newsletter, Good Vibes, I send it often in the morning. I have a mailing list for it. It's free. It'll always be free. If you go to my Instagram and you go to my bio, the link is in there if you want to do that. It would mean a lot to me. I like sending them out. That's part of my morning routine too. But thank you for hanging with me. This is a real pleasure. And thank you, Chase. And thank you, Aunt Evans, for helping me with my YouTube channel. And Ovid, who's making my cool thumbnails. Tell me if you like my thumbnails. And yeah, I'll see you again. I think I'm off to Singapore or somewhere. But lots of love. Blackout.